Hello there. We're in Germany, in a town called Marktbreit. Now, I've been in this town for a couple of hours because I've already drawn this view, which I really enjoyed painting, and it was just felt like a good connection was made. So much so, and I did it so fast that I thought, unfinished business, let's do another one. And I thought maybe this view, then this view. So this gate has basically 4 sides to it, as you would expect, and this is the southern side, I guess. And it was a shady space to sit, but I'm literally sitting on the floor beside a kebab shop, Can Donna. Nice kebabs, I recommend them if you're ever in Marktbreit. And I just thought it would be really fun taking immediately the lessons I'd learnt from that drawing, which was literally 20 minutes before this, and just do something super fast. Now, at the end of it, this took 25 minutes. While I was doing it, I was thinking it was taking like half that time because it felt super... I was going to say rushed. I don't mean rushed because that implies that's not enough time. It felt like it was a really pleasurable speed paint, if that makes any sense. Because it took away, again, something I bang on about all the time, it took away a lot of the pressure of precision and kind of, that just sense of getting things right. Because when you're painting like this, obviously there's no guidelines, you've not set anything up, you've not worried about proportions, you've not established vanishing points. You're just banging off some paint and enjoying the process of doing so. And because you're doing it in such a relaxed manner, I hope the overall kind of finished product comes out as feeling relaxed and spontaneous. And it has a kind of a quality to it, which is unlike a quality you might usually bring to a drawing. I mean, if I spend 2 or 3 hours doing a very detailed sketch, it would look very different from this. And that's just because I give myself the time to make it different. And I think that's telling, isn't it? I think when people start out on urban sketching like this, the drawing takes as long as it takes. And, if it takes an hour, it takes an hour. If it takes 2 hours, it takes 2 hours. And you don't necessarily have control of that process of time. And when you become more familiar with your own abilities and your process and, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, you can choose to take shortcuts. And those shortcuts bring a certain lightness of touch, a certain pleasure, really. You can have fun with it. And it stops it becoming burdensome, the sense that I know I can do a half hour, I can do an hour, I can do a 2 hour. That's kind of nice that I can choose based on how much time I really have and how much time I want to have, how close it is to lunch and how exhausted my head is from looking at all this stuff. And it's just nice to have that knowledge that you can choose to kind of change things around to suit yourself. And with that comes that sense of relaxation, as I say. Now I'm using the Daniel Smith Phthalo Blue, which is my favourite colour of this little trip I'm doing in Germany. I bought it specifically to try, really, because I wanted to take a watercolour set because it's so easy to carry. And in fact, this drawing is one of the rare drawings where it's really 90% watercolour, but I'm not really using watercolour in the traditional sense. So it's not kind of like wet in wet where you're creating big washes. There really are lines, and you can see here when I zoom in a bit that we've got the mop brush has created a line, albeit a very wide and sort of washy line, and I've mixed 2 colours into that wash. So it's got some of the phthalo blue, it's got some of that moon glow from Daniel Smith, so that kind of slightly sort of dirty purple colour. And I've specifically loaded the brush with both those colours, so it's kind of coming out slightly randomly and creating that visual complexity. And now I'm going in with the Pro Art angled shader and just defining. And there's something very satisfying about going in with this big broad brush stroke and then literally just highlighting, going over the top, really. The sketch is kind of done. It's funny, I still call it a sketch because it's linear rather than a painting, which for me is, you move your hand in a different way to paint than you would to sketch. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm moving my hand as if I was doing a sketch. Still, that's a digression. Just that sense again of bringing in the fine line to bring that level of definition and sharpness and focus and finish. Oh my god, they're all Fs. Bringing in the 3 Fs. I'll remember that for next time. Now, one of the odd things you have to get over with when you urban sketch, meaning, bearing in mind, urban sketch of course means in the urban environment, so you're out somewhere. sometimes you get a view like this, which is you just so want to draw, and there isn't an easy way of drawing it, meaning there's no cafe there, there's no bench, there's no seat, there's no kind of raised something you can sit on. So I literally carry with me a sort of a shawl, which I lay on the ground and sit on like I'm having a picnic, off to one side. Obviously I'm not in the middle of the road, that'd be madness, but you do have to kind of overcome that sense of sitting in at a cafe doing a drawing. That's one thing. Sitting on the ground, looking at a view. I mean, everybody walks past and thinks, what's that person doing sitting on the ground? That looks like, is that a weird thing happening? And then when they get a bit closer, they realize what you're doing and they understand and they're cool with it. But still, you have to kind of overcome the I'm not behaving like a normal person because I'm sitting on the floor like a teenager, like a kid. If I'd had a kebab for me, it probably would have made more sense. Maybe next time that's a tip. What I like about this very sort of loose and speedy technique is that you can you can make it shorter still. I mean, you can look at this drawing now and say that's kind of done. We're kind of 15 minutes in, and you could kind of stop it at any point because it is loose enough that it is just a sketch that is capturing this scene. It's not meant to be, artistic. It's just meant to be a record in a fun way, one that you remember with a smile. So you'll see me using the acrylic paint pen. Acrylic paint pens are my thing. They're my favorite thing because they bring such opacity, so that's solidity of color, so much density, and especially when you use white on a toned paper like this kind of slightly beigey, tanny paper. The white and the blue and that tan paper really create the impression of a fully colored view, a painting that is of color. And the reality is it's white and blue. It's kind of tricking the eye into thinking there's more going on than there really is, but in a really fun way, in a way that it's kind of it's pleasing. You're not tricking anybody. It's just part of the artistic sort of side of choosing colors, I guess, and how those colors combine and read in the eye of the viewer. Now you'll see that I include a photograph that I took from the seated position I was in. So I took that photograph where you see bottom left, specifically to show you the reality of what that view is and how what I am sketching here isn't an accurate representation. Anybody sees this painting, they know where it is if they know this place. But if you compare it to the photograph, you'll see it is not precise because it can't be. That's not what urban sketching is really about. It's not about precision, it's about the moment. So that for me is an important sort of key really to why urban sketching is so interesting. It's that it gives you that sense of, well, what do you want to do with it? Not how are you going to accurately trace this photograph and colour it in. That's not possible when you're out on the street. There's something far freer about looking at the thing and saying, well, I've got 25 minutes, let's see what we can do in that time. And as I always say, look, these drawings you do, they're for you. So if you don't like it, I mean, I haven't actually done this, I don't think, but I know other people who have finished a drawing and thrown it away, as in literally thrown it away, said, you know what, I don't want that. I learnt something from it, but I don't want it to exist. And they literally, I don't know, paint over the top or scrub it out or put it in the bin if it's a paper thing. And that's the point, really. It's that this isn't something that should feel precious to the point of painful, that gets in the way of your head. This is very much a relaxed, well, as relaxed as you can be when you're sitting cross-legged on a cobbled street. But still, a relaxed kind of expressionism, a way of capturing the scene in a way that doesn't feel obsessive or, over the top in any way. A sketch should never be stressful. Ultimately, a sketch should be relaxing, or at the very least, you should end up feeling relaxed by the end of it. Now, in terms of process, I've done this sketched completely the wrong way round, and I did it without really thinking about it. I just instinctively did it the wrong way round, by which I mean, if you were to go back to the beginning and play this again, don't, but if you did, I really painted the building on the right hand side first, and then I did the central section with the arch, which is really the subject, which I would normally have painted first, and then I did the building on the left hand side. So that's the wrong way around for two reasons. Firstly, I typically instinctively paint the subject that's most important to me first, and the building in the middle is obviously the subject of the view. And if I don't do that, if I'm kind of thinking, well, there isn't that particular subject for whatever reason, for example, if it was some kind of landscape where there wasn't necessarily a central focal point, then I would start from the left side and move across, simply to make it easier for the hand to not have to smudge stuff. If you paint or draw or anything the right hand side first, and you're right-handed, then as your hand's moving over the drawing, there's always a chance it's going to smear or kind of make some kind of mess. So typically I start with the thing that matters most, or I start from the left. And for whatever reason, I started from the right. As I say, without really having thought about it. And when you look at the drawing now, you can kind of tell that the right hand side has obviously as much sort of focal draw as the arch in the middle does, to the point where it's a little distracting, and the building on the left is, I think, appropriately fading away in order to make sure that the arch itself is the hero of this view. So it's interesting for me to kind of look back. I mean, that's one of the fun things about doing these recordings, is it's important for me when I'm making the video to not think about making the video. I'm not trying, so for example, I don't narrate while I'm drawing, because that would soak it in my head. I'd be thinking about what to say rather than thinking of doing the drawing, so I just can't do that. So I'm doing the drawing exactly as I would, and then of course I'm recording the whole thing as a full length piece of video. And only afterwards, when I'm looking back at it, am I kind of learning lessons about myself, about how I've gone about things, and how I kind of have surprised myself, because the techniques that I'm assuming are relatively established within me sometimes get thrown out the door. I guess the point here is that as much as you can have a whole set of ideas in your head of process, sometimes you just paint and you just sketch, you just draw. Sometimes you just go for it, and you don't have to think about it in a intellectual way, in a process-based way. You just enjoy sitting outside a kebab shop doing a painting of it's a 1600 this was built. So what's that, 420 years ago this thing was built. It's been standing there, it looks kind of brand new, kind of, and it's just something really lovely about all of that. So thank you very much if you've watched through to the end. This is only a quickie, only deserves to be a quickie, and hopefully I'll see you next time.